Hello, children. Hope you all are doing good. And welcome back to Connect with Shantha, episode 15. Children, today's episode is going to be very interesting. Of course, the next two episodes also. So, quickly let us get into today's video. Children, there are some moments in history that feel less like stories and more like thunderstorms trapped inside time. Moments where fear filled the air so heavily that people could almost hear it breathing. And today, I want to take you into one such moment. But before that, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how fear behaves? It rarely arrives loudly. It enters quietly. Just before an exam, before a competition, before speaking on stage, before trying something new, and suddenly the mind starts creating storms. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if I'm not good enough? Children, sometimes the greatest battles are not fought with weapons. They are fought silently inside the human mind. And long ago, on the banks of a mighty river in Assam, one such battle unfolded. A battle where courage and fear stood face to face. The night was cold. The Brahmaputra river stretched endlessly under the dark sky. Mist floated above the water. The silence was deep until suddenly drums echoed across the river. Slow, heavy, and threatening. Then came the flames, tiny lights appearing far away in the darkness. One torch, 10 torches, hundreds of torches. And slowly, the terrifying shape of a massive enemy fleet emerged from the dark night. Warships, armed soldiers, a gigantic army advancing through the river like a moving wall of fire. Children, the invading Mughal army had nearly 30,000 soldiers, experienced warriors, massive naval strength, powerful weapons, and standing against them was one man, that is the Ahom army commander Lachit Borphukan. Though the army was smaller in number, far less equipped, barely around few soldiers prepared to resist a force almost several times larger. Children, people watching that sight felt something terrible inside them. Hopelessness, because the enemy looked unstoppable and mighty. And on the other side stood a smaller force from Assam. Limited soldiers, limited weapons, unlimited hope. Some soldiers have already begun whispering, "We cannot survive this. This battle is lost. They are too powerful." Fear was spreading faster than the river current itself. And as if the situation was not difficult enough, their commander, Lachit, was seriously ill, weak, burning with fever, and barely able to stand. Children, this was during the historic Battle of Saraighat. Now, listen carefully. Sometimes life tests people in strange ways, not when they are strong, but when they're exhausted, not when they're comfortable, but when everything around them begins collapsing. And slowly, fear began defeating the soldiers even before the battle truly began. Some boats started retreating. Some soldiers lowered their weapons. Some had already accepted defeat inside their minds. Because when people see problems bigger than themselves, they start expecting defeat even before trying. Children, you have to remember and understand this. When people see problems bigger than themselves, they start expecting defeat even before trying. And the same thing happens in a child's life too. A difficult mathematics chapter, a competitive exam, a strong opponent in sports, a stage performance, a leadership opportunity, a tough interview in the future, and immediately the mind says, "Oh my God, I may not be able to do this. Others are better. I may fail. This is impossible for me." Children, expectations can become dangerous. When you expect failure repeatedly, your confidence slowly starts retreating before your effort even begins. Let's come back to the story again. Then suddenly, news reached Lachit Borphukan, who was the commander of the Ahom army. Sir, the soldiers are falling back. So, children, remember, history changes in moments like this. A single decision, a single action, a single moment of courage. Despite severe illness, Lachit Borphukan stood up. His body was weak, but his determination was fierce. He stepped into a boat and moved towards the battlefield himself. Children, imagine that scene carefully. A sick commander sailing directly into danger, while healthier men were moving away from it. And the moment soldiers saw him, something shifted inside them. Fear cracked, courage awakened. Because bravery is always powerful. It spreads from one heart to another like a fire touching dry grass. The same soldiers who were retreating turned back towards the battlefield. The same eyes filled with fear, now burned with determination. And against all expectations, the small Ahom army, headed by a physically weak commander, defeated the far stronger Mughal army with thousands of men, lot of weaponry and ammunition. So, just think, children, what truly won the battle? Not strength, not numbers, not weapons. It was mindset, the refusal to surrender mentally. And that lesson still matters today. Because life will always place battles in front of you, in the form of exams, in the form of failures, rejections, pressure, criticism, expectations, and moments where giving up feels easier than continuing. Sometimes society itself will expect you to fail. Sometimes even people around you may underestimate you. And sometimes the biggest enemy will be your own thoughts. Remember, children, sometimes the biggest enemy will be your own thoughts. But understand this carefully. Great victories are often born from impossible situations. Nobody expected the smaller Ahom army to win. Yet, history remembers them. Why? Because courage can sometimes defeat numbers, determination can defeat fear, and belief can defeat expectation. Children, never underestimate the power of one brave decision, one answer spoken confidently, one attempt after failure, one step forward despite fear. That is how strong people are built. Not during easy times, but during difficult ones. Hope you loved the story. And for today's task, write one situation where fear makes you step backward, one expectation that limits your confidence, one courageous step you will take from today. And before you leave, in the comment section, write one line: even when situations look impossible, I will. I repeat, even when situations look impossible, I will. Okay, children? So keep thinking, keep growing, and remember, history remembers those who moved forward when fear asked them to retreat. So, keeping these points in mind, write the given task and wait for the next episode with one more interesting story of a similar kind. Till then, bye bye, children. Have a great time.